When you think of Florence, a few things probably pop into your head, right? The Duomo, the Ponte Vecchio, and of course, the incredible Boboli gardens. For centuries, we've thought of it as this perfect example of a formal Italian garden, basically a huge, beautiful green museum right behind the Palazzo Pitti.
But what if I told you that's not the whole picture? Not even close. What if Boboli isn't just a garden? What if it's actually an entire city? Yeah, I know it sounds a little out there, but stick with me, because we're about to look at this famous landmark in a way that is, frankly, kind of genius.
This one idea from the architect Bill Holmes just reframes everything. It's like the key that unlocks the whole design. A virtual city within the literal city of Florence, a self-contained royal world built not just from stone, but from plants and pathways.
So where did this whole idea of a city come from? Well, you have to go all the way back to the 16th century. Duchess Eleonora de Toledo, the wife of Cosimo I de' Medici, gets this land. And the vision wasn't just, let's plant a nice backyard for the palace. No, the idea was to build an entire world.
And this watercolor map, it just visualizes that concept perfectly. I mean, forget what you think a gardener plan looks like. This is a city blueprint. And seeing it this way, it changes everything. Those different colored areas, they're not just sections of a park. They are distinct neighborhoods or quartiers, each with its own vibe, all wrapped up inside a protective border. It's a totally new way to read this landscape. And like any great city, this royal city has its own anatomy. First, you've got the walls. Some are actual medieval fortifications, others are cleverly made up by the backs of buildings. Then inside, you have the garden courtiers. Think of these as the main districts. And just outside, you've got satellite courtiers, kind of like the suburbs, handling all the essential services like stables and workshops that keep the city humming.
Okay, so let's take a little tour of how this city was actually put together. We're going to start in the very first quartier that was ever built, the original iconic heart of Boboli.
This right here is ground zero for the Medici's vision. The first architect, a guy named Tribolo, created this incredibly powerful central axis. It's a dead straight line shooting from the palace right up the hill, and it was designed to do one thing and one thing only: to project the absolute, undeniable power of the ruler over the entire landscape. It's a total statement piece.
Now, at the bottom of that axis is the amphitheater, but its original concept was just pure brilliance. Tribolo imagined what he called an anfiteatro di verzura. So instead of building with stone, he planned to literally carve a theater out of the hillside and then shape its walls and seats with sculpted plants. It was architecture made out of nature itself. So cool.
But like any great urban space, it didn't stay the same. It evolved. This timeline just shows you all the layers of history baked into this one spot. It starts as Tribolo's Green Theater in an old quarry. Then, almost a century later, it's rebuilt in stone for huge parties. Fast forward another century and a half, and a real Egyptian obelisk is dropped in. And finally, in the 1800s, they add that massive Roman basin. It's a stage where history itself has played out.
And all of that incredible layered history is exactly what's being preserved and really completely reimagined today. Because right now, this royal city is in the middle of the biggest transformation it's seen in centuries. We're talking about a huge master plan designed to carry it deep into the future.
So just how ambitious is this plan? Well, the price tag is over 15 million euros. The Boboli 2030 project is a massive public works program for this historic city. To give you some perspective, that's more than it costs to restore the entire Colosseum in Rome. This is a monumental, serious commitment to Boboli's future.
And this isn't just about, scrubbing a few statues. The whole project rests on four big pillars: restoring the art and architecture, but also making the garden sustainable, making sure it's accessible to every single person, and creating new spaces for visitors. It's a completely holistic vision.
Now, to see how this urban renewal actually works, let's zoom in on one specific landmark, the Grand Ducal Coffee House. This gorgeous 18th century building was a total gem, but for decades, its doors were locked. Its beauty was just hidden away from everyone.
That is, until now. With a focused investment of 700,000 euros, the Boboli 2030 project decided it was time to bring this jewel back to life. And the results are just stunning. The original frescoes are restored, it's got modern climate control, and it's been totally reborn as a real working cafe. But the best part? It's open to the public again, with a new terrace that has one of the absolute best views of Florence you will ever see. It's more than just a restoration. It's like reopening a beloved public square, bringing a vital piece of the city back to its people.
The coffee house is really just one piece of this giant puzzle. This Renaissance for the Renaissance, as they're calling it, is touching every single corner of the royal city, from its biggest monuments down to its tiniest hidden paths.
And this renewal is spreading all across the city. I mean, just look at the scope here. 4 million euros to restore the amphitheater, the city's main stage. Millions more for other famous spots and to conserve over 300 statues, which is basically the city's public art collection. And get this, 3 million euros for a new underground elevator. That's modern infrastructure, making the historic heart of this city accessible to absolutely everybody.
So when you step back and look at all this investment and all this work, what does it really mean? Well, it signals a massive shift in the very identity of this royal city. It's an evolution from being a symbol of exclusive absolute power to becoming a space for shared humanity.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The 16th century vision, a private park for a handful of rulers, all about showing off their power and their control over nature itself. The 21st century vision, it's the complete opposite. It's a public museum for the entire world, built on principles of sustainability, universal access, and a cultural experience we can all share.
So let's be really clear. Boboli 2030 isn't about freezing the gardens in time, like some dusty museum piece. Not at all. It's a dynamic, forward-looking project. The real goal here is to make sure this incredible city of art and nature doesn't just survive as a beautiful relic, but that it actually thrives as a vibrant, living space for centuries and centuries to come.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought. The story of Boboli is really powerful. It makes you ask a much bigger question about all of our shared heritage. As our world keeps changing, how do we make sure these historic spaces don't just survive, but that they actually thrive as a living, breathing part of our future?